Welcome to Michelle Reads Books. So today we are looking at the first of the Chronicles of Narnia series, and this book is called The Magician's Nephew. So this is the first book of the series, and it kind of is a bit of a prequel. It was also written after the first, I think 4 books were written of the Chronicles of Narnia series, something like that. And it's very, very interesting. There will be some spoilers. If you are interested in reading it yourself, you may not want to listen to the whole summary. So I'll give you a summary and then my opinions. The Magician's Nephew. So Diggory and Polly are next door neighbors. Polly had lived in the townhouse in London for years, and Diggory had only just moved in next door because he and his ailing mother had moved in with his aunt and uncle, who were siblings. His aunt is quite strict, but otherwise fine. His uncle is very mysterious and spends a lot of time in his attic library. Diggory and Polly spend some time playing together and discover that the townhouses share a crawl space in the top of the attic. They decide to try and enter the empty house, going through Polly's house crawl space and passing through Diggory's house to the empty house after it. However, when they went through the door, they discovered they hadn't gone far enough and had actually entered Diggory's uncle's attic library. Diggory's Uncle Andrew was happy to see the kids because he wanted to experiment with them. Yay! He pretends that the kids were free to go, but encouraged them to take a yellow ring. When Polly touches a yellow ring, she disappears. Then Uncle Andrew explains to Diggory that if he touches a yellow ring, he will be transported into a different world. If he touches the green one, he will return to his home world. Diggory now has to bring Polly a green ring so that she may return as well. Uncle Andrew had arranged the whole thing in order to experiment with the rings without risking himself. Diggory touches the yellow ring and ends up in a very peaceful world with trees and ponds. He emerges from one of the ponds and sees Polly. Both struggle to remember what happened to them as the world affects their memory, but they eventually remember what happened. After a bit of experimentation, they discover that they can re-enter their world if they put on the green ring and jump into the pond Diggory had come out of. They mark this pond as the way they return home. They decide to enter a different world and jump into a nearby pond. They end up in a nearly dead world called Charn. There are depictions of past rulers of Charn where they begin looking kind, but look increasingly cold and cruel as time passes. No one seems to be alive still. Eventually, they discover a bell that has an inscription that they can magically read that encourages them to ring the bell. Polly gets spooked and wants to leave. Diggory seems to be fixated on the bell and fights Polly in order to ring it. When the bell rings, the coldest and cruelest ruler of Charn comes back to life. She says her name is Jadis and explains that she had destroyed all life on her own world, and tries to hold the children so that she can return to their world. The children are able to get their yellow rings on, taking Jadis with them. She also tags along when they returned to their own world. Uncle Andrew initially is very deferential to Jadis and spends quite a bit of money on her. He is clearly afraid of her, but whenever he is alone, he deludes himself to think that he should court her. He takes her out to eat, spending all of his disposable cash on her. He returns a few hours later with Jadis driving the cab. The cabbie runs along behind, as well as Uncle Andrew, both upset with Jadis's behavior. A fight ensues with Jadis, with a piece of the lamp post in her hand as a weapon, sitting on the back of a horse. The cabbie is holding the horse's bit. Uncle Andrew is trying to get her off the horse when Diggory puts on his yellow ring to bring Jadis back out of their world. So in the in-between world is Polly, Diggory, Jadis, Uncle Andrew, the cabbie, and the horse. There is some debate about what to do now, and the kids want to return Jadis to Charn. They pull her into the pond they think was Charn, taking everyone with them. Unfortunately, they misjudged, and this was not Charn. We are now in Narnia. The world is still being created. A lion is clearly the creator, and he sings to create the world. He creates the land, the stars, the sun, the plants, and the animals. Of the animals, he chooses some of them to be speaking animals, including the cabbie's horse. The lion's name is Aslan. Jadis throws the piece of the lamppost at the lion to stop him, but it doesn't hurt him at all. It falls to the ground, growing a lamppost in the place. Uncle Andrew starts planning on how he can make money in this richly growing place, and Jadis runs away. Aslan has a meeting with the talking animals and decides that the evil which has been brought to Narnia, Jadis, needs to be addressed, and Narnia must be protected. He calls on Diggory to correct his mistake, as he was the one who called Jadis back into life. Diggory is sent to get a silver apple from a magic tree. The cabbie's horse Strawberry is granted wings and is sent to accompany Diggory. Polly tags along as well. They find the magic tree, which is surrounded by a fence with a gate. The inscription on the gate says that one should only come in through the gate and should only take an apple if you intended it for others. When Diggory enters in through the gate, he finds Jadis sitting on top of the wall, clearly having scaled it and eating a silver apple. Diggory takes one, but Jadis tries to convince him to eat it himself, and borrowing that, to take one home to his mother, who is dying. He is tempted, but doesn't do it. When he returns to Aslan, they discover that Uncle Andrew had been having some conflict with the talking animals. A bit of comic relief, as Andrew doesn't understand them and they don't understand him. At one point, the animals conclude that he is a tree and tries to plant him. Afterwards, they just keep him in a cage-like structure for his own protection. Diggory then plants the apple under instruction from Aslan. He explains to Aslan what Jadis had done. Aslan explains that Jadis will now live forever, but she won't be able to pass the tree that Diggory planted, protecting the people of Narnia. He said that her power will one day get big enough to pass it, but the people of Narnia will be protected long enough to become strong themselves. Aslan then offers to make the cabbie king of Narnia. He said he would love to, but he's married and misses his wife. In a moment, his wife appears. She was crowned queen and the cabbie king of Narnia. Strawberry the horse is renamed Fledge and is one of the talking animals of Narnia. The children and Uncle Andrew must return to their world, but Diggory is very sad about his mother and asks Aslan if anything can be done. Aslan gives Diggory one of the silver apples to feed to his mother. He explains that she should recover, but won't live forever if she eats it in her own world. So Polly, Diggory, and Uncle Andrew returned to their world. When they return, they go back to the time they left, so no one had even missed them. They return to their homes, and Diggory feeds the apple to his mother. Following orders from Aslan, Diggory and Polly bury the rings and the apple core in the back garden, where an apple tree grows. The apples from this tree are not exactly magical, but they do taste better than any other apples in the country. Polly and Diggory stay friends through their lives. Diggory's family eventually inherits a large manor house, where they live the rest of their lives. One day, the apple tree blows down in a storm, and Diggory uses the wood to make a wardrobe in his manor house. So, clearly this is some foreshadowing of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah. So this is the prequel. The lion being Aslan, the witch being Jadis, and the wardrobe being the wardrobe he made from the apple tree. I think that this story is really creative. It has a good, healthy dose of Christianity, which we are aware of from C.S. Lewis. He's pretty famous for that. So there's a lot of the Adam and Eve story, especially the fact that they used an apple, from a tree that you could have, but you had to do it under certain circumstances. And that it's not bad in and of itself, but that if you misuse it, then it's, bad. Anyway, but I think that that's just a repackaged Adam and Eve story. I do really love that they just take the cabbie. They're like, hey, well, you want to be king? Well, that is also clearly an allegory of Adam came from elsewhere kind of an idea. But I'm not sure if that was really what was intended. Anyways, but I do find it really funny, some of the comic relief and how the animals are debating whether or not to plant Uncle Andrew and why can't they understand each other. And it was because Uncle Andrew just convinced himself that it wasn't real, that nothing was really happening, and that the animals then couldn't understand him because he wasn't speaking to them as if they were sentient. And so they're just like, good doggy, stuff like that. And he's like, What did you just say? I didn't understand what you said, you know? And so I think that's really funny. It's very comical. I do really like the moral aspect of like, should we do this? Should we not? Also, what would happen to our world if there was suddenly a much more powerful being from another world that just showed up one day? I think it would be disastrous to our world, and that's kind of the point here. Um, but yeah, it's a really well thought out story, and it's quite an easy read. It takes about 3 hours to read all the way through. And so it's a fast read and it's really fun. So I can highly recommend it. Happy reading.